President Buhari to perform groundbreaking for Transportation University in Daura, Katsina State today.
Defense headquarters denies alleged recruitment of former Boko Haram fighters into the Nigerian army.
Saturday, Emir of APC wins Kogi sectoral election.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss banks and sundry customer charges, plus the Zuma Film Festival.
Now, owning a bank account in Nigeria comes with a lot of benefits and, of course, liabilities.
That's right, Rhoda. Now, if one considers the preponderance of bank charges on their customers these days, one is obviously at a loss as to whether the liabilities of owning a bank account do not indeed outweigh the benefits.
And of course, Kingsley, you are absolutely right. And from automated teller machine ATM charges to card maintenance fees, account maintenance fees, POS charges, and some arbitrary deductions which defer explanations, the list of bank charges on customers in Nigeria is just endless.
In fact, Rhoda, one of the newspapers reported recently that 4 leading banks in the country generated some 24.3 billion naira from account maintenance charges on their customers' accounts. And that was just between January and June this year alone.
And that's quite a huge turnover from a bank charges. Although most of the banks have attributed these charges on customers to a high cost of doing business in Nigeria, arguing maintenance of thousands of ATM machines nationwide are mostly outsourced to support companies.
And some of those, most of those ATMs often malfunction from what we have seen. But of course, most Nigerians always be at the receiving end or bear the brunt of the ills of the system. And by the way, most of these bank charges are imposed on customers without their opinion. And many bank customers do not even bother to cross-check with the Central Bank of Nigeria guide on bank charges to know whether or not they are being shortchanged.
And who then will bear the cut? To what extent does excessive and arbitrary bank charges threaten financial inclusion in Nigeria? Have the regulatory bodies protected bank customers or left them at the mercy of Shylock charges?
Well, Rhoda, those are pretty pertinent questions for our guests later on as we discuss bank and sundry customer charges on Good Morning Nigeria today. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to the program. As always, we are broadcasting live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I'm from Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. And
I'm Rhoda Anona. My joint Kingsley welcoming you to today's edition. Just to also let you know that we'll have a second conversation, and that will be on the forthcoming Zuma Film Festival. And of course, we have all of our complimentary segments, including the newspaper review. We have business, we have sports, and others. Just before we join our colleague Kingsley, this is an issue that is very, I'm so happy we're talking about it. The one that's so annoying now is the 15 naira charge for the use of POS at every point you get to use a POS, whether in the supermarkets, whether it's in
the gas station. Yes,
and before you know, before the month runs out, you spent over 1,000 naira, if not more than that, on just using POS, and we're going cashless.
Absolutely, and 1,000 naira could fetch you at least 2 hefty loaves of bread,
and that could fetch you at least about 4 liters of fuel, or 5 liters.
Yes, it could also fetch you at least 3 or so crates of eggs, depending on the quality you're buying. Crate of egg basics.
All right. Colleague Dennis Adeguloye is here with us this morning. As you know, on Good Morning Nigeria, the news always comes first. Let's join Dennis. Dennis, good morning.
Good morning, Rhoda. That is quite a staggering 50 naira every time you use a POS. Let's hope they address that. Good morning, Kingsley. And good morning, Nigeria. Here is the news. All is now set for President Muhammadu Buhari to perform the groundbreaking ceremony for the Transportation University in Daura, Katsina State today. The institution, expected to gulp 18 billion naira, is in furtherance of government's efforts at developing quality manpower that will manage railways and other transportation facilities across Nigeria.
Kaduna is the state of education, so additional university, especially of transportation, will add more to the value in Kaduna State. And we're grateful to the President for accepting to site this university in the state.
Nigeria will witness an influx of God's blessings and prosperity before the year runs out and in the years to come. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo gave this prophetic declaration at a special Thanksgiving service by the Asovilla Chapel to mark the beginning of the month of December 2019.
Psalm 65 verse 11 tells us that God is going to crown this year, the end of this year, with his goodness and with his abundance. And he will give us the fatness of the land in the mighty name of the Lord Jesus. So I believe very strongly that God is going to bless this land and prosper this land. Not just at the end of this year, but the coming year will be even more glorious.
And Christmas appears to have come early this year with the Radio Nigeria Television Authority and the Voice of Nigeria choirs treating Nigerians and the world to its annual service of 9 lessons and carols. The theme for this year's is Jesus in the Midst of the Storm.
Things are changing, things are improving. We're not there yet, but we have taken a step. Jesus. Amen.
The annual One Ummah conference, which brings together various Muslim societies from around the country, is underway in Abuja with the theme Peace and Unity.
Very essential. That is why we have remained with the theme for the last 3 years. We want to see peace, harmony, and development in our country.
I want to learn more about the religion. That's why I leave my house to come and learn.
The Defense Headquarters has been notified of false information peddled in some online media, insinuating that the radicalized Boko Haram ex-fighters are being absorbed into the Nigerian military. Acting Director Defense Information Onyema Nwachukwu in a statement says one of such insinuations is contained in a trending video footage published by Roots TV, where one Bahatu Musa Ezekiel claimed that the Nigerian army had recruited de-radicalized Boko Haram ex-fighters into the army and was therefore recycling insurgency. The Defense Headquarters wishes to state that Bahatu's claim is not only bereft of truth but laced with mediocrity emanating from a poorly researched and uninformed position. Contrary to such claims, the Defense Headquarters insists that no Boko Haram fighters have been recruited into the Nigerian military and no such plan is in the offing. The statement notes that over 250 repentant insurgents who willingly abandoned their struggle and surrendered to federal troops have been de-radicalized, rehabilitated and reintegrated into the society by their respective state governments in conjunction with traditional and religious institutions. The Defense Headquarters reiterates its commitment to ensuring a well-motivated, trained and equipped armed forces that is professionally responsive to national security commitments. And the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, says the Nigerian Air Force will continue to accord priority to the welfare of troops on the front line for optimum performance in the theatre. The Chief of Air Staff stated this while inaugurating a block of flats for officers at the 105 Composite Group of the Nigerian Air Force in Maiduguri.
Very happy with what I have seen. We need to do some few other things to make the place better and more conducive, and we're going to do that.
Senator Smart Adeyemi of the All Progressives Congress has been declared winner of the Kogi West senatorial election. The senator defeated 24 candidates to win the poll.
I declare that Adeyemi Smart M of APC, having satisfied the requirements of law, is hereby declared, returned and elected.
And those are the news highlights for now. The program continues with Kingsley and Rhoda after this break. I'm Dennis at Digunloy. Good morning.
President, Association of Retired Career Ambassadors of Nigeria, ACAN, Ambassador Ladapo Fafura, daily invites the public to the launching and maiden edition of the ACAN Foreign Policy Journal. Chairman and Chief Launcher, His Excellency, Dr. John Kayode Fayemi, Governor, Ekiti State, and Chairman, Nigeria's Governors Forum. Special guest of honor, His Royal Highness, Hamadu Sanusi II, CON, Sirikin Kanu. Co-launchers, Senator Ahmad Ibrahim Lawan, President of the Senate, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, Speaker, House of Representatives. Date, Tuesday, 3rd December 2019. Venue, The Rotunda, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Afaba Lewa House, Central Business District, Abuja. Time 11 a.m. For details, please call 0803-426-2377 or 0803-4877877. Ambassador John Kayode Shinkaye, First National Vice President, ACAN, announcer.
Now, download the exciting new Indomitables game on Google Play Store.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down. Do you have a job where you're going to?
No, but someone is arranging...
Listen, Aliko. Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. You know, I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad or even end up in prison.
My name is Balaunti. I'm the Managing Director of Petroleum Product Marketing Company, a subsidiary of NNPC. There are significant price discrepancy between Nigeria and its neighbors across Africa. There's a discrepancy of between 150 to 250 naira. That creates an incentive for arbitrage, whereby smuggling triumph by taking petroleum products across the neighbors so they can be sold at higher price. While the smugglers are making the money, Nigeria is paying for it. And that payment is distorting everything that we do in terms of planning, in terms of our ability to fund, and thereby taking money that is meant for development. The introduction of this Operation White will have a reduction of close to 6 million liters on daily basis, which if you take an average of 150, translate to a saving of over 1 billion naira every day. That is the benefit of Operation White, and we have started seeing the great benefit.
The new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively taking a look at the traditional television and new media. Are they comparable or complementary? Media industry players give perspective on trends, progress, challenges, and the way forward. Find out on this compelling edition of TV Guide. Expository interviews with stars of the team within our space. Becky Madojemo of NTA, Utibe Umore of AIT, Nifemi Oguntai of TVC, and a host of others. TV Guide, your indispensable companion of the future, Yamina.
I'm the CEO, Managing Director of Yamina Sister Restaurant. I choose to serve
a TV drama series on NTA. Let's get to meet the characters behind Yamina. This edition also presents exciting features on tourism, culture, entertainment, sports, health, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendors near you. or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Good morning, Good Morning Nigeria, live network service of the NTA. And coming up next is business news with our correspondent.
Improved access to credit for farmers and small and medium enterprises through the Anchor Brewers Program, Commercial Agricultural Credit Scheme and the Real Sector Support Funds top the list of Central Bank of Nigeria's priority for the year 2020. The CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, who disclosed the Apex Bank's plans in Lagos, says the bank is determined to improve access to finance and credit as well as maintaining its current tight stance on monetary policy rate. In view of rising inflation expectations, he said the bank is poised to support economic recovery to boost the country's gross domestic product.
The technology that will be used is not, you are not going to see too much of cash. You will just see it's going to be a fintech technology. But the important thing is that we have already set a target for ourselves to say that by the year 2020, which is just next year, so we're talking about less than, say, about next 20 months, that the rate of financial inclusion in Nigeria must increase to 80% from about 48%.
In the meantime, the need to develop reliable and quantifiable information on the support of development partners and donors to Nigeria has been re-echoed by the Permanent Secretary Budget and National Planning, Ernest Umakihi. He made this assertion at the presentation of the new Nigerian's Official Development Assistance Policy to Ministries, extra-ministerial offices and agencies held in Abuja. He urged MDAs to come up with useful suggestions on how to make the Official Development Assistance Policy a framework that will strengthen the alliance between development partners, stating that all international development interventions must be aligned to complement key national development goals. Foreign assistance plays a crucial role in the nation's development. In the meantime, market report for the week ended 29th November 2019, a total turnover of 1.161 billion shares worth 13.174 billion naira, 18,142 deals were traded on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, in contrast to a total of 1.416 billion deals valued at 17.249 billion naira. The exchange hence last week in 20,303 deals. Stockbroker Emmanuel Howard reveals the performance of the market.
There's renewed investor confidence in the capital market. The yield is more attractive in the equity segment of the capital market because they are migrating from the fixed income segment to equities because it offers higher returns, coupled with the fact that the results are about to come. End of year result, if the companies are posting good results, it will definitely impact on the performance of the market.
He says the consumer goods industry had a turnover of 84.546 million shares worth 3.445 billion naira in 2,674 deals. For business news, Comfort Amadou.
Thank you very much, Comfort, for the business news package. Up next is a review of some of the national dailies.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayelsa, is right here with us in the studios. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Rhoda.
Good morning, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Right, so we have a couple of papers here with us. We have the Daily Trust, we have Daily Sun, and of course the Nation. But let's begin with the Daily Sun. Just beside the nameplate, you see there restructuring Middle Belt Forum, Afenifere Defense stands, with rather their faults Zamfara governor for labeling them insincere and unserious. That's just beside the nameplate there. The big story on the Sun this morning, Local government autonomy, Senate moves against governors. Local government autonomy, Senate moves against governors, set to abrogate joint account in fresh constitution amendment. That's the lead story with right there. It's on page 7 of the Daily Sun. Well, the picture story there is one of sorrow and grief as fighters they're extinguishing the dawn fire that raised over 15 shops in some parts of Lagos yesterday. And below the picture story, Aisha Buhari rebukes not for governors alone. Aisha Buhari's rebuke not for governors alone, says NGF. Black Sunday in Ogun and Lagos, 5 killed, 12 injured in auto crash as fire razed shops, destroys vehicles, mob lynches too in Yenugua. Beside that, detained ex-AGF advocate rights Interpol demands freedom in the United Arab Emirates. That's on page 6. Editors, IPI, others reject hate speech bill. That's on page 6. Those are the stories trending on the front page of the Daily Sun this Monday morning.
All right, so we also take a look now at the front page of the Nation newspaper. Above the nameplate, Kuka, Sani and others knock hate speech bill with a rider sponsor defense action. Another one there, Taraba Speaker Abel resigns over squabbles and house to name successor. Details of that can be found on page 42. Below the nameplate, November's 314 billion naira gain reduces investors' loss to 1.65 trillion naira. And further down, it says kidnapped Adamawa DPO as divisional police officer freed. That's on page 5. Social media bill dangerous. That's a story. You can find greater detail on page 8. Lead story says bank customers to present tax card from next month. With rider finance bill to widen tax net will go into effect after Buhari's accent. Now, let me take part of that story so that you can have a sense of the details that are contained on the front page with a continuation on page 8. Evidence of tax payment will be a condition for operating a bank account from January, according to the finance bill passed by the National Assembly. Now, it says it's expected to be signed, that's the bill now, with the budget before the end of the month. According to a section of the bill, banks will require anybody opening an account to provide his tax identification number. And those who already have accounts with banks will also be required to provide their TIN. That's TIN. There are 30 million bank verification numbers that are linked to accounts, according to the story. Now, you find some contradiction there because the opening paragraph says evidence of tax payment, and subsequent paragraphs are saying that the banks will require any person open an account to provide his tax identification number. A TIN isn't necessarily evidence of tax payment. All right, other headlines there on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Aisha Buhari's rebuke. NGF, that's Governors Forum, Defense Governance. And lastly, at the foot of the front page, why we are partnering with Cameroonian vigilantes by Zulum, who is governor of Borno. Bayo.
Well, let's start with the issue of TIN. TIN is tax identification number. If you are a public servant, you have your tax deducted monthly, you are entitled to a TIN, tax identification number. Regular taxpayers too will get TIN. Now, introducing it as a criteria for opening bank account, again, is part of the measures by government to try and make sure that everybody who earns something or has an account is actually paying due tax. But meanwhile, over the weekend, there were rerun elections in Kogi and as well as local government elections in Niger State. The All Progressive Congress won all the 25 local government chairmanship in the states. Senator Smart Adeyemi of the All Progressive Congress has won the Kogi West senatorial rerun election. The INEC returning officer, Professor Olaide Lawal, announced that Smart Adeyemi scored 88,373 to Senator Ndumidaye 62,133. It may be recalled that INEC declared the November 16 rerun election inconclusive because Senator Adeyemi had led with 20,510 votes, and this was found to be far less than the 53 the votes from 53 polling units that were cancelled due to electoral violence and other infractions, and therefore there was need to do a rerun for 7 local governments. In that rerun, the All Progressive Congress won 5 local governments. The PDP won 2. It may be recalled that the Senate or National Assembly Election Tribunal ordered the rerun of the election, and Senator Dino Milaye appealed at the Court of Appeal and lost. People living in Lagos are now to achieve a rapid enhancement of movement. You recall that in September, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway end was closed for construction. It was opened yesterday, and at least 1 lane for the outward journey has now been opened, and this was done by the Federal Ministry of Work to enhance transportation during Christmas. Also, on the rail side, ahead of Christmas, the federal government has also declared that there will be free train ride from Lagos to Ibadan, and this is to commence and will end in March. The Minister for Transportation, who announced this on his Twitter handle, tweeted, "Let's ride to the next level." The Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway has explained that the train ride, which will start immediately, will run up till March, specifically up to about 19th of first run up to 19th of December. It will be done by 2 coaches that will run, and it will be on first come, first serve. It's going to be free. But from 21st of December, they will increase the number of coaches, and there will be 2 daily runs and it will be free. It's part of the activities test running the standard gauge train from Lagos to Ibadan. For now, the train will start from Fagba up to Mondia in Ibadan, and subsequently, it is hoped that by the time the inward track is laid up to the rest of Lagos and up to the port, there will be a straight ride from Lagos up to Ibadan. Meanwhile, it is hoped that when that is completed, the other part of the train track from Ibadan to Kano will continue.
All right, that's a good one. So if you're in Lagos and you haven't gone home in years, there's a free ride for you during the season till March. So you can go as many times as possible. You can come as many times as possible. All right, let's quickly take a look at our editorial this morning. Our editorial is on the Daily Trust. It's on, that's editorial on Daily Trust. It's on page 52 of the Daily Trust. It's on Turkish arms supplies to Boko Haram. Let's quickly just give us details of that. I wouldn't want to read what I was at the time.
Yeah, can I quickly draw attention to the query raised by the ICPC, Independent Corrupt Practices Commission, that what is constituency project doing in the Federal Ministry of Justice and Foreign Affairs? If constituency project is to let people in the constituency have a feel of government, why do you have to have 5.6 billion allocation in the 2019 budget for Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Justice? So that is an issue that the ICPC is questioning. Now the editorial.
For Ministry of Justice, it may very well be that
Kingsley
constituency.
With the constituency, maybe you need
local government level.
No, maybe they need more courts.
At the local government level?
Maybe they need more courtrooms. Maybe they need more facilities in the courts that are already in existence. So,
Foreign Affairs?
Foreign Affairs, oh yeah, the lawmakers go on tour abroad, so they want to also have a good feel of what is there.
All right,
This just tells you, what we've been seeing with regard to the so-called constituency projects and how to get embedded in budget year after year.
All right, please.
Yes. Well, the concern is that there is information coming from a minister in Turkey, as well as an official of the Turkish airline, that Boko Haram gets supply of arms from Turkey. And this is not far-fetched, because there's also an American Lebanese who has raised that same issue. And so the editorial is saying that this must be investigated and needed in the board, particularly too Turkey should be able to cooperate with Nigeria because it has also been putting up renegade persons who are challenging the democracy in that country, just as we are facing with the challenge of Boko Haram. And therefore, the editorial is saying that it should be cooperation between Nigeria and Turkey to need that source of arms.
If you recall, some time ago, some arms were intercepted, and those arms had Turkey as their country of origin.
Yes, Atinkan Island. Yes.
If you recall that, yes.
All right, that's the much we can take this morning on our newspaper review. Bayo, thank you very much.
Thank you too.
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
All right.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. We will take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll be discussing banks and sundry charges. If you have experiences, if you have issues that you want to raise with us this morning, very quickly send us a message via our Twitter handle at NTAGMN. We have guests who will be speaking to all of that this morning. I know that's an issue that's affecting a lot of Nigerians right now. Banks and sundry charges. We'll be back shortly.
They swore an oath to serve our fatherland and defend the people. They traded their freedom, comfortable homes, and mortgaged their lives on the battleground for our unity and peaceful living. These are the great, fearless, loyal, and committed Nigerian armed forces who risked their lives courageously to safeguard our borders. But in the line of duty, many never returned. Nigerians, arise, let's celebrate our fallen heroes. Put on the remembrance emblem with pride to support the incapacitated and families of our fallen heroes.
It is indeed befitting to honor the memory of the gallant hearts of young men who paid the supreme sacrifice to keep the country united.
President Muhammadu Buhari enjoins all ministries, parastatals, religious and corporate bodies to donate generously to the Emblem Appeal Launch. Send your donations to these accounts. Account name, Emblem Appeal Launch. Account number 393-200-7526. EcoBank Nigeria PLC.
My name is Aminu Goronyo. I am the National President of Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN, the biggest commodity association in Nigeria and by extension in Africa. I have 12.2 million rice farmers under my platform. The issue of border closure, to me and to RIFAN as an association, does not just limit within what benefit our farmers are getting. It goes beyond that. The importance of border closure is about Nigeria and Nigerians. And in no distant time, Nigerians will begin to see the importance of border closure because we cannot continue to be dancing to the tune of other people.
Years of travel and counting. 20 years of promoting tourism in Africa and diaspora. Over 3 million kilometers traveled. Over 30 African countries visited. Explored the diaspora in 4 continents. Connected over 100,000 happy tourists to Africa. Reached over 50 million homes. Igniting smiles across Africa and beyond. As Kogi Africa turns 20, we thank you and invite you to join us in the quest for 20 must-visit destinations in partnership with the largest TV network in Africa, the NTA. Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Transportation, Lagos State Government, Canon, Delta Airlines, Royal Caribbean, Toll Brokers International. You too can still be a partner. Call the numbers on your screen or info@gogeafrica.tv. Kogi Africa, celebrating 2 decades of heritage, travel and tourism.
All right, you're welcome back. And if you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We are live on the network service of the NTA. And our first conversation this morning, we shall be discussing banks and sundry charges on customers. And to set the tone for our discussion, let's take this background report that has been put together by Abdulsalami Jubri.
Over the years, issues of automated teller machine ATM charges, card maintenance fee, and other sundry charges have sparked controversies between Nigerian banks and their customers. Many Nigerians have complained about these arbitrary charges on their bank accounts, prompting many to close their accounts after several years of running it. Available statistics indicate that from January to June this year, 4 leading banks generated about 24.3 billion naira from account maintenance fees charged on their customers' accounts. This is an increase of about 19.18% from 20.39 billion naira generated in 2018 by the same banks. It will be recalled that the Senate had in 2018 called on the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend the deduction of card maintenance fee, but the charges still apply till date. Development experts say the trend is capable of jeopardizing the nation's drive towards development and financial inclusion by 2020. Banks, on their part, have argued that the high cost of doing business in Nigeria necessitated some of these charges. They maintain that they have a huge cost to cover if they are to operate successfully in Nigeria. For instance, the banks learned that maintenance of about 20,000 ATM machines nationwide is outsourced and fees ranges from 200,000 to 550,000 per ATM. However, experts have maintained that instead of earning money by borrowing and lending money to the real economy, banks in Nigeria simply turn to fees and charges to boost profits. Many have also warned that if these charges are not checked, many Nigerians will move away from using the banking system, and this will reduce the net of customers using the services of banks even further below the 40% of Nigerians currently estimated by the CBN as having bank accounts. Now, what must be done to protect customers from arbitrary charges by banks? What is the role of regulatory bodies? And what other ways can banks break even without making customers to bear the brunt? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be providing answers to these questions and more shortly.
Thank you very much, Abdulsalam Jibril. Indeed, we have two directors from the Central Bank who are here with us in the studios, along with two other guests. I would like to introduce them now. First, Kofo Salame Alada. He's Director of Consumer Protection Department of the CBN. Kofo is a man, by the way. A pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is Samuel Okojire. He's Director, Payment System Management Department, also of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Samuel Okojire, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Professor Ken Ife, a regular face on Good Morning Nigeria and development economist, is right here in the studios. Prof.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure to have you. And of course, last but not the least, would like to welcome Dr. Patrick Nwayo, a CEO, Abuja Business School. Dr. Nwayo, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll begin with Kofo Alada, who is Director of Consumer Protection Department of the CBN. Are you aware of the many charges that commercial bank customers are subjected to, and about which you have a series or a litany of complaints?
Well, to put it very mildly, if there's anybody who should be aware, I think I am in a very good position to know. We're aware of charges, and we can also tell you, that the central bank, being aware of this, it's not just sitting back, allow charges to be arbitrary or to be unfounded. Indeed, the Central Bank of Nigeria, since way back, has been involved in moderating and modulating,
charges, either in frequency or in quantum, value, and the rest of them. If historically, way back 2004, there was in the system what was known as banker's tariff. From banker's tariff, we moved to real bank charges in 2013. And for 2013, it was just in respect of banks. Thereafter, given what was going on at the emergence of other financial institutions, the movement away from traditional banking into even digital financial services, there was that need immediately to expand the scope of the regulation the central bank put in place for bank charges. So in 2017, precisely first, the extant regulation on bank charges came into effect. And you should also know that central bank does not just come out with regulations these days. Regulation, especially these banker charges, were actually subjected to very wide discussion with stakeholders, bankers, customers, and every other person who had one or two things to do in the financial system. So let me just seize this opportunity that customers and even the public are encouraged that whenever central bank introduces a regulation placed on its website, advertised on TV and radios, calling for comments for the making of this regulation, customers should just seize their opportunity. I can say that being aware also, if I'm given the opportunity, we're aware that things are happening and we have put things in place. Because it is also the central bank that's driving financial inclusion. So it would be wrong for the bank to actually sit back and say, hey, it is just for us to protect the banks or the customers, I will not do anything. And also know that when the governor of the central bank, Godwin Emefiele, came out with his 5-year plan recently, a major part of it is the fact that customers and consumers will be protected so that the drive for more people to come to be captured in the financial ecosystem will continue. So we are not taking things very, very lightly. So coming back to 2017, in that document, you have most of the products, being provided by the banks, captured in that system. And in the preface to that regulation, we also say that the list here cannot be exhaustive. So what do we do in central bank? We subject any products being developed by banks, they have to come to central bank for approval for pricing and the rest of them. Then again, note that central bank also encourages competition in the banking system. So it is not for us to now say this is what you should do, but we give, a wide spectrum within which charges could be. So you have the upper cap, in certain cases you have the minimum cap. So what is expected of consumers is this, and that is something that we are doing, especially in my department, consumer education. Consumers need to know the pricing of any product, they're supposed to, they want to purchase. And in some of the regulations that we are coming out with now for consumer protection, following the introduction of the consumer protection framework in 2016, now we are coming out with 4 or 5 regulations to protect the consumer. So banks now are mandated to put on the table with the consumer, explain in the language the consumer understands, especially the literate one, or even visually impaired, disabled people are supposed to be taken care of, in the explanation of some of these things so that consumers know from beginning what the charges are. And coincidentally, in part 4 of the regulation that is coming out of consumer protection, in section 419. So if anybody does not even know any section, that 4.1.9 is on charges. And the fact that banks and other financial institutions are supposed to be upfront with their customers about charges, fees, interest rates, and that any variation in any of these will have to be communicated to the customer within a particular period for the customer to determine whether they really want to continue with that particular product.
Well, I'm so happy that you're speaking to the issue of consumer education. First of all, you said something that when regulations like that actually said, CBN would advertise or do announcements on the need for people to be aware. Correct. First of all, I want to say that I have never seen such, and if I have seen such from the CBN, probably I would have also, spoken to myself. But then, what are you said now that you're aware of these charges? What are those charges that you are aware of?
Okay, coincidentally, like I said, I'll be guided by the bank-to-bank charges itself. In the first part, which is for banks. You know, you have interest and charges in respect of deposit, you know, commission on bonds, sundry, you know, charges on electronic transactions, you know, most of them. You know, but I know most of the ones that are popular that people are talking about is maybe current account maintenance fee is also there in the guideline. You understand? You know, and one thing is this, one thing that runs through this particular document is the fact that most of these charges are negotiable. And we also state there that there is a duty on banks and other financial institutions to actually draw the attention of consumers and customers to any fee that are said to be negotiable. So these charges, like I said, runs through all the services being provided by the banks. And there maybe in the report, if I could just quickly take the report by Abdul Salam, you are referring to the cost of doing business by the banks. Let me just say that the extant monetary credit foreign trade exchange policy guidelines by the Central Bank of Nigeria is a biennial 2018-2019. Actually, in calculating the cost of funds by the banks, banks are not supposed to even factor this in. And I have examiners out there on the street, in the banks, and they look out for some of these things. So if there's anything, let me just use this opportunity to say this on this forum, that customers are advised that there exist channels of complaint with the Central Bank of Nigeria. For example, if you have any issues with these charges, and for those who are taking advantage of that, they go home smiling. So just do a mail after reporting to your bank, because banks are supposed to be the first point of call for complaints about charges. Send an email to us in Central Bank at cpd@cbn.gov.ng. You know, if you take that email again, it's cpd@cbn.gov.ng. So the regulators are actually doing a lot to protect customers.
Okay.
So all they need to do is just let us know about these issues.
Kofo Salami Olada, thank you very much. We will give you the opportunity again in the course of the conversation to restate the complaint address at the Consumer Protection Department. Let's bring in now Sam Okujere, who's Director of Payment System Management Department of the Central Bank. Now, part of what we're talking about, it's issues banks will tell you, their interaction among themselves, between one bank and the other, and so on and so forth. And there is also a category of charges that is not so popular unless you get into it. If you go for a loan, for instance, as you are aware, the administrative charges on those loans are sometimes enough, you know, to drive you into bankruptcy. But bank customers, Kofo is saying, oh, negotiate this. If a charge is negotiable, negotiate it with your bank. If you have a complaint, you know, come over to the central bank. Well, my colleague and I were introducing this program this morning. We said some of those charges, they might look infinitesimal. Oh, card maintenance fee for the month, account maintenance fee. What do you call the other one?
POS.
All kinds of. But these are little pennies that are going out of your pocket. And by the time you aggregate the pennies, they could actually give you a decent breakfast for 1 week.
That's correct. Thank you very much for the opportunity. The banks have those charges for maybe facilities that customers are taking. I think it is important that whoever that is taking the facility takes time off to read the terms and conditions. Like my colleague have said, have that guide to bank charges, which define what should be the charge. Majority of them, like he said, are negotiable. So don't be in a hurry. You need to sit down with them and negotiate. You have the power, because without you taking the loan, they won't be making the money they needed to make that profit. So you are in a position to negotiate. After that, ensure that they comply with all the agreements in terms of the charges and all that. Where you feel uncomfortable with any of them, you have the right to complain to them. And if nothing is done, you know, to assuage your pains and all that, that's where the Consumer Protection or CBN comes in. CBN deliberately created that department to protect the interests of the consumers. What it requires is awareness. Most times, instead, if you don't want Nigerians to know anything, put it in writing. Most of all these things, they are there on our website, on CBN website. But sometimes, or most times, people don't read. They are there. That when every year we release the guide to bank charges. Currently, it's being reviewed to be released early next year. So people should take out time. Once they are published, they will be there for people to read. Most time people don't read, but these things are there. So at the point before written. In terms of other charges like POS and other, yes, those charges are there. Maybe I use this opportunity to explain to Nigerians that, look, for you to go to an ATM or POS with your card, you put in your card, money comes out. Behind it, there are about 6 parties that made that to happen. And these people invested their money, that the owners of that company. The card you are holding, if you look at it, as either Visa, Master, or another card, that is part of it. There is a bank, which is the issuer. And the ATM is provided by somebody. There are PSA that load money and ensure that those things work. The ATM is functioning. Behind it is a switch that will connect that system on the bank to your bank to check whether, within a split second, you just see the thing blinking. So to check whether you have funds in your account. And it go to the national central switch, who now collects this thing, confirm that yes, you have the money. Then this one can release. Later they can settle themselves in between the banks. So there are 6 parties there. So sometimes you see that when they charge like maybe 60 naira or 50 naira, that amount is divided into 6 portions, depending on the role played by each party. So I know that many Nigerians are not aware of this. So it's not that if you just put it is free. No. So that's why.
But you've charged me for you've charged me for the ATM card already. Yes. About 800 naira for one ATM card.
Yes.
Yeah, 1,000 naira some banks for ATM card. Yeah. Every month you charge me about 120 or 150 naira.
50 naira.
About, okay, let's say 50 naira for card maintenance.
Instead of charging once, you just spread it to reduce the pain.
Okay, so why should I pay to withdraw?
No, that is another function. Having the card is the enablement required to transact. Then now doing the actual transaction, there are 6 parties that are waiting for it to enable it to happen. You just collect the card, put it into the ATM, and the money comes out.
And so are you aware that some banks have a limit of 10,000 naira per withdrawal? And so if you have to withdraw for 6 times 60,000 naira, you are paying 65 naira per withdrawal.
So that's why we are saying people should learn to use alternative means of, because ATM actually is not supposed to be where you withdraw huge amount of money. If for me now, for instance, I go to Lagos and pay. Do you have an account? Yes. You just transfer. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no person charging you. If you don't want to pay that fee, go to your bank's ATM. No person charging you, 0 charge. So you have a right to go. But if you have to use another bank, they are making life easier for you. That is a service charge. But if you don't want to pay, go to your bank ATM. It's 0 charge. Anywhere in this country, let's say you are using Access Bank, go to Access Bank if that is your own card. Go there, withdraw. There's no charge at all.
But you're aware that most of the banks don't have ATMs everywhere.
Yeah, yes, it's a developmental process. They are growing. Okay. Initially, before now, we see that we have it only in selected areas. Okay. But it requires a lot of investment to really go around.
All right. Thank you, Samuel Kojere. Let's bring in now Professor Ken Ife. Professor Ken Ife, let's have your views on this. Sam Kojere was talking about T&Cs, the terms and conditions. This is like what used to happen in the insurance industry, the so-called small prints. And there are judicial authorities that have struck down those small prints to say that a potential client will not have enough time to read those fine prints. And here we are, some saying that, look, between you and your bank, you have terms and conditions, and that you should read those terms and conditions before you latch on to any service. I would like you to make a comment on that, along with, of course, what your general view is.
I think, let me start from unpacking some of the subject matter. There are big challenges that we face, and you could see that all parties are struggling to meet the challenges. The first challenge is what INEC says in their job across the country, that 30% of the country is not covered by broadband. So you know that because they are out there trying to do the election. We also know that the second challenge is only about 40% of our population, of 202 million, are banked. And we have the challenge of moving them to near 100% if we can. We're also aware that banks only provide certain part of the services. As you know,
if you are taking money from their own ATM, you don't pay. But elsewhere, and even in all cases, there are people all the line involved in the services. You have power supply needed to be there 24/7. You have a network infrastructure has to be there. You have all of those array have to be paid for. And some of them are beyond the scope of the bank. They have to contract those services. We're also aware that there are real costs beyond what I have just described. If they are handling cash, Toludo said that when he was governor, that he was spending $120 million in printing notes. I don't know how much it costs today to print notes, but you print those notes, there's cost of transporting them, you get them to the bank, and then you take the cash and come back and drop cash. There's charge in handling those cash, whether you are paying in or paying out. And then also, when the notes gets bad, there is charge in replacing those notes. That there are charges all the way through. But we also know that the banks are making good profit. From the profit you posted, when they are making over 20 billion naira or something like that, and that represents about 60% of their profit. But America, it represents about 20%, those services. So we are seeing where it is 60% of their profit, but we are seeing domain where it is only 20% of their profit. So there is a headroom. Now, we also know that in the course of this, CBN has placed some fixed charge. As you know, it capped some charge. Sure, yes. But there are some that it says are negotiable. And God knows, I don't know who any bank has told I can negotiate. I don't know anybody that has told. But they make you sign paper, as you said, in fine print, and then they keep on charging. And I haven't seen people come together with their lawyers to go to court. But that's a story for another day. But we also know that the central bank says, where charges are not covered by these guidelines, you need to come to us to approve a particular line of charge. Now, the challenge here is, whilst we have to move the agenda on achieving more coverage, getting more people into the banking sector, the central bank will have to take a graduated step to make sure that we'll get there and encourage the banks to expand services. Do you see the point? But let me tell you now, in a schematic, CBN starts with regulation by regulating the price and pegging the price for some service. But then, when we achieve full coverage or reasonable coverage, then we now have to ask the bank to unlock. Then it starts deregulating. Now, what it deregulates is to say to the banks, I'm no longer going to have fixed charge. Now, you now play to your customer, charge what you can, but there's a ceiling. Now, the incentive now is that some banks will start charging half of the rate, some will charge 3/4 of the rate, the rates will begin to vary. But then you have to now bring the customers to drive that change. Because the central bank will now need to say, okay, let us loosen the belt and allow the banks to allow people to transport their. Now we have BVM. We should be able to move our account. Any day in London, I can tell my bank manager, move my account from HSBS to Barclays overnight. And Barclays will offer me superior rates, and they'll have to move. So we have BVN. We could do that. But CBN has to authorize that. And when people begin to vote with their feet and tell a bank, look, I'm not happy with what you are doing, move my account here, prices will begin to come down. Then the CBN will come back again and then do benchmarking, where you begin to, and that's the department, where you begin to name and shame companies that have poor records of complaints. And because you now begin to collect complaints, you publish the league table. Right. Once you publish the table of companies that have the highest complaint, you now put the highest pressure on the banks to begin to play ball. Now that 60%, you see all that come down to reasonable level. So that's the trajectory that I will expect from the CBN over time. All right. Thank you very much, Professor Kenife. Let's bring in now Dr. Patrick Nwayo, CEO of Abuja Business School. Let's get your take on this. But I'd just like you to also respond. Are we dealing with a situation where, because we have a fee-based economy or commission-driven economy, which is one of the easiest things to do rather than real hard work. We are seeing banks, as Professor Kennefe pointed out, that they are having their profits well above 50% coming from charges, charges and fees, rather than getting to do the real hard work of credit management, for the real sector.
Thank you very much for the question. Like Prof said, traditionally the banks, they have the right to accrue revenue from charges from service provided to customers. So having said that, these sundry charges are too many, like I've just said, ranging from ATM charge, from transfer fees and all of that. But the fact is that even this ATM we're talking about, we're trying to close that. The banks make a lot of money savings from ATM because it reduces personnel cost. If you look at the cost of paying tellers and all the bank staff, especially in the front desk, it has reduced to a large extent the cost of the personnel cost. So they should not complain that they make a lot of payments from a service provider and all of that. They have their own advantage, saving personnel cost. That is one. Two, the CBN on its own part should regulate the banking system, because that's the body that regulates. Now, if, for example, the customers are complaining and complaining for whatever charges are being levied upon, there's what is called there's a wide communication gap from the banks to the customers. For example, those in the remote villages cannot read and write. So there must be provide platform to inform them. Because we are seeing that there's a problem now. The problem is that excessive bank charges. If you tell an average Nigerian, they will tell you, I put my money on my pocket in the mattress rather than go to the banking system. Because there's a observed gap of communication and administration. The customers they're not even aware of all the charges. So, and again, the banks on their own part do not inform them. Those days, traditional banks, we had what we call debit advice. So once you debit the customer's account, you give them advice, and there will be basis for these charges. There must be basis. You can't just charge a customer without.
I know you're itching to speak to some of the issues that he's raised. As you do that, are you aware of the POS charge of 50 naira per every transaction? Oh, okay. Can you speak to that? Yes. All right. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you, Prof. Thank you, Doctor. Actually, we'll say, I don't want to put the blame at the doorstep of the media. The central bank, let's start from Doctor. In terms of reaching the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, I believe most of us on this panel and most people at home are aware of what we call agent banking that the central bank has been, so maybe questions may come in that particular area. It's actually for the purposes, of those people, who will not have access to the brick and mortar banking. Okay. And we all know that brick and mortar banking is almost going extinct and so expensive. Go into the villages, you want to rent or build property, put infrastructure and all that in place. But central bank has also encouraged what is known as shared services as well, even in the modern areas, encouraging banks to actually share services and pay, they will spread out the cost across. But central bank has been doing some of the things being advocated by the academia on this panel. One thing we can tell Nigerians is this: the central bank, to use the street language, has got your back. We keep talking about sundry charges. If I should put that question to the panel, please name these sundry charges. They will not go beyond what has been captured in the guide to bank charges that central bank has been talking about. Only that some of them are as more widely known than others. For example, on this panel, it is ATM that you're talking about. But also know that when you go to the market, purchase goods, when you get services, what do? There has to be consideration for some of this. And we need to be fair to the banks. Much as we know that they go beyond their bounds at times, and luckily, they know some of us are in position to actually rein them in. It's only that Nigeria has not developed to that level where we come to the media and say Bank XYZ has been sanctioned. We do sanction them, if you must know. And if you read their financial statement, you see that it is mandatory actually for them to mention some of these penalties that we give to them. But if you want CBN to start coming out, we're in an environment where Bank A suffers about 30 million, 80 million naira penalty today. We give as much as that. We give as much as hundreds of millions in terms of penalties against banks. You understand? Because we need to get the banks to disgorge. Let me be specific. In the guide to bank charges and even the monetary credit policy guideline that I mentioned to you, it is a duty on the bank when you find out that you have applied any excessive charge against or fee against any customer, you are to within 2 weeks refund this amount to the bank with simple interest calculated at your prime lending rate. Because it is understandable that you have taken that money, you could have lent it to somebody, so you need to disgorge the profit you have made. And also know that where a bank fails to actually return this money within that stipulated period, there is at times daily penalties against these banks. I know the bankers who are watching me now, they see that bad boy. But it is for the safety of the system. Know that a major mandate of central bank is promotion of safe, sound and stable financial system. We do not do this in isolation. We have to do a lot of balancing between the banking public and the banks themselves. We need also for the media, let's put it out there, some of these services, when they are provided, they need to be charged. But quickly, let me just mention something about ATM card, debit card charges. When you receive, and I'm telling Nigerians now, if you do not in a month use your debit card and you are charged, report to central bank. Because the guide to bank charges says it's only where that card is used for the month that you can be charged for the use of that card for the month.
So I just heard somebody say I won't use my card again.
If you don't, I just want to say, Kofi Alada, you've talked about the fact that, okay, there is backing for these charges, and that backing, of course, comes from CBN's own regulation.
As I agree with the banks and the public who are supposed to be.
Well, the banking public probably could not be so keen as stakeholders. Because earlier you talked about the fact that whenever there are public notices, some people should get interested in those things. But what is the philosophy behind what CBN is doing? Because oftentimes, it's fashionable for us to hear global best practices, international best practices. Is it best international practice for the CBN even to approve the ceiling of what we are seeing in terms of the charges, monthly account maintenance fee? You already when you open the account, monthly maintenance fee, ATM, bank charges, all kinds of charges that you get from time to time. It could be small amounts. And then when you even go to the bank to go to the customer care counter, the officials are at a loss making an explanation to you. They say that is what we charge.
No, actually, you see, borrowing from what Mr. has just said, if he has said, the market will eventually regulate itself in terms of, kind of services. I will tell you that, yes, before now, worldwide, market conduct was never there as part of regulation. But the past decade, that has been one of the focal points of regulators around the world. That apart from prudential regulation, which is about credit policy, the balance of the bank, let's look at market conduct. Let's look at how the bank conducts its businesses with its customer. Because like I also always tell people, the focal point of any business is the customer. Your customer is your best advertisement. Now, what am I talking about putting so much focus on market conduct now? In Nigeria, soon, maybe your medium will be used to talk about this. The central bank has come out, or it came out some time ago in 2016 with a consumer protection framework. And flowing from that framework will be guidelines for people to use, for banks to use. And banks are supposed to adopt this and even have, as adopted by their board of directors, policies, practice, and procedure for consumer protection in their banks. It's just a preview into guidelines that will come out. Now, When you go to a bank, you want to open an account. At the point of engagement, a lot is supposed to take place. We put duty in this guideline on the banks to educate their front desk staff. So if these were well educated, the kind of response that the King was referring to would not be there. So we have it in the guideline now that you are not supposed to even tie the remuneration of the bankers to the account that they bring in, which was a traditional practice that you used to have. All those are not supposed to be there, so that we will have ethical practices. And I make bold to say that today, the banks from whom we do not get complaints are actually those who are into ethical practices, not interest banking system. You don't have them. And some of the banks who are huge, they have low complaints. You understand? So let it be known that central bank does not just legislate it like that. And let's also correct it that central bank is fixing rates. No, central bank is not fixing rates. Central bank is for the protection of the public, saying, hey, you cannot go beyond here. Almost all the charges are negotiable subject to the maximum limit. And most of them, for the benefit of the public, are actually being reviewed. Now, there are some definitely modulated for interest of the banking public.
Modulation is, frequency modulation is like amplitude modulation is different. It goes very wide.
Let's leave that. No. It's expected that in industry, the Central Bank of Nigeria is for the protection of both the consumers and for the safety and soundness of the banks themselves, so that they will continue to
Rhoda, just a minute. Before he's saying that, we understand that as the philosophy of the central bank, but bank customers are complaining.
And that's why we
come back to that.
No, bank customers are complaining, and that's why we're having this program this morning. That's why we have you here to actually explain the issues. Just as you said, you're not saying you have a cap. But you notice that all the banks are charging almost the same. All of them are charging same amounts. And if the cap is 60 naira, everybody is charging 60 naira. Nobody is below 60 naira. Nobody is charging 30 naira or 40 naira. No, but I like Samuel Okujiri to actually come in here. You said you're aware of the 50 naira POS charge. Let me make you understand something. First of all, nobody is saying that charges should be done. We are aware that there are a chain of people who provide these services. But what we're saying is that the charge is too much. You said you're aware of the 50 naira for POS transaction. Two questions I want you to speak to, and the issue of agent banking. Take, for instance, someone who has had to use the supermarket, the gas station, the pharmacy, the market all through the weekend, Friday now. I tell you, has probably been charged to 500 naira for 50 naira per transaction. Agent banking you were talking about, of course, that's to make people closer, those rural areas. Are you aware that for you to make a withdrawal for about 5,000 naira through agents, you have to pay up to about 250 naira? If you're withdrawing 10,000 naira, you are paying 500 naira, whether you're withdrawing or you're receiving.
Thank you very much for that. Let's start with what Prof alluded to before, that the reach is not there for the rural areas. Where the central bank today is pushing seriously for financial inclusion. And part of the effort included the introduction of what we call USSD, where you have start this, whether to transfer to receive. So that one does not require broadband, but just any feature phone can always afford that. So that's one of the things that central bank have introduced. Then we also have like a mobile money, you have agency banking. This is expected to reach out, to enable banks to reach out to the rural areas. Talking about financial inclusion, central bank is pushing for digital banking. That's why recently they've licensed what they call a PSBs, Payment Service Bank. They're expected to rely on technology to reach out to the rural areas. Now, for the 50 naira being charged, I think it's good that we use the point to clear it, that 50 naira is actually a federal government tax, not CB, not bank charge, not any person. It's the federal government impose a tax on digital transactions. Okay. So, which is a stamp duty. So it's only that yes, we are trying to get the bank to ensure that whoever received that money, maybe if I go to a shop to buy, is the seller that's supposed to pay that 15 naira. But surprisingly, they are pushing it back, which is not supposed to be.
Okay, no, please take that again.
No, what I'm saying is that the law says any account that received that maybe payment transaction from 1,000 naira and above, you pay the 15 naira. Okay. So the receiver of that money
is supposed to be the one to pay the money, 15, not the
customer. Exactly. Okay. So, but the merchants are now pushing it back. They just put the central bank say it's not about central bank policy. It's a government policy. It's a tax. It's a law. It's only the Act of National Assembly that can change it. Good enough. Yeah. That is being reviewed now. If you read a couple of days ago, you said that they are raising that money from 1,000 to 10,000 naira subsequently. But until it's enacted, it will still continue to be 1,000 and above. So we are getting across to the banks to ensure that they need to review the SLA have with their merchant to ensure that they absorb 50 naira rather than pass it on, without any relationship with the goods. I just say, I'm going to pay the price plus 15 naira. It is totally wrong.
So what you're saying is the stamp duty is 50 naira.
Yes.
But on the goods they've also bought, there's VAT.
That's right.
And then also, if you're a civil servant, tax has been removed, deducted from source.
All those ones are for government. It's not statutory payments. It's not.
Let me, because there's something I just wanted to check now. Were you saying that if you make an electronic transfer, there are no charges?
From within your bank, that is, you can have an account you want to transfer money from this account to the other one owned by you. There's no charge.
If as you work in CB, I want you to transfer money to me. But as soon as this program is over, transfer something to me. Let's see how it works. But I mean, the experience is if you make an interbank transfer, from bank A to bank B, you get charged total 52 naira 50 kobo. For every. That's one is stamp duty, the other one is VAT.
Yeah.
No, for that transfer, the 50 naira one I spoke to before, that is the cost of service which shared between 6 parties. The transaction.
You have another six costs, another 6 providers.
From POS.
No. Not POS. Talking
phone
about
banking.
Yes. Mobile banking.
When you transfer from A to B,
yes,
there is a fee of 50 naira, then a VAT of 2 naira 50 kobo. That's why you always see 52 naira.
Who are sharing that 50 naira?
The 6 parties I told you.
The same 6 parties share the money with the ATM.
Because if you are transferring from, let's say, bank A to bank B, it's not something you carry physical. There are system provided that enable that to happen. So it's a service provided.
You want to transfer something to me so that I see how it works. Okay, we have a number of tweets that have come in from our viewers, and we want to just go through some of those tweets very quickly, and then of course return to our guests who are still with us in the studios. I was just checking some of those things from my. Every time whether it's 10,000, whether it's 2,000, you must get that plus the monthly account maintenance. That is the issue. Monthly account maintenance.
Banks who keep their ATM cap at 10,000 naira per withdrawal, is that right?
I must tell you that some of these issues are being addressed. You look at it. Yes, people, instead of the high value notes, I think that's what you notice. Okay. Some of them use high value notes, 1,000 naira notes. Some use 500 naira notes. For those ones you are talking about, you notice that what is being dispensed will be 500 naira note. Okay. For those who dispense 1,000 naira. Then again, well, on the light side, don't you want the money to go around? You come there, you are taking 20, 30,000. Others cannot take that, just on the light side. But to actually tell you this, upon the intervention of the National Assembly, where a respected set of people, consideration is already being given to some of these issues so that banks are supposed not to put a limit that you have come to know now that, okay, traditionally when you go to an ATM now, the moment you have done maybe 20,000, you even discover that at times your card may be rejected for the next transaction, especially when it's not your bank, and that is why, for business reason, banks are actually encouraged to deploy as many ATM as they can, in the sense that this may be a point for competition. You know, for example, why would I want to bank with a bank that has the largest number of ATMs? You know, so that I don't pay those charges after the first 3. And again, we have not even mentioned it here. Note that the first 3 uses of your card on remote or not transaction, that is when you use another bank. Yeah. The first 3, actually, you are not going to pay any charge. Okay. You understand? So it is also in a bid to encourage.
I want you to clear that. Somebody has said when you say the first 3, you are saying your first 3 transactions in another bank for the month. It's not as if for the whole month you just have 3 free transactions.
I was just going to say before your intervention now. I was just going to say that we also need to do something. Remember that we're trying to drive a cashless economy or cash-lite economy. You understand? So if this is in tandem with what you are seeing here. If I know I'm going to start paying charges, you know, consistently on my extra uses of ATM after the first 3, you understand? I will look for alternative. And that alternative is what we're promoting now to reduce pressure on notes. And so that, you know, central bank will be able to declare more surpluses for government spending on everybody.
The ATMs we're talking about, you go to some of them, there's no network. Some of them, your money won't come out, you'll be debited. For you to recover that money, it will take you a month, 2 weeks.
You require a lot of paperwork at the customer desk. I mean, we use this since maybe yours is seamless. If I go to a banking premises, and there's usually a security guard around there, one of the first things I advise myself to do is to ask which of these ATMs is dispensing. And you will find that if you have 3 ATMs, the man will tell you, oh God, now these 2 now they work, this one now they work. And yet, you know, the banks are telling you that, cost of business, we are maintaining 3 ATMs. And these ATMs, not all of them are functional.
Yes. What we expect is that customers should start thinking of using alternative means.
Namely,
you have USSD, you have mobile banking. You can do transfer from your phone.
I want to go and buy yam in the market, 2 bags of yam in the market. I'll be doing USSD too. That a man will be looking at you.
No.
Let's face it. You go to a taco market.
You go to other jurisdictions. In Singapore and China, they're using it everywhere.
But not
all of them have
other jurisdictions. We're talking about our own jurisdiction.
Yes,
Professor Kanife.
You know, the bottom of this is a bottom. The bottom is that the banks are not lending to the real economy. That's the bottom.
Yes.
Because they're not lending to the real economy, they are now scratching everything. It's up to here. Just that small number they want to finish you. They're not lending to the real economy. Explain to me why 38 million MSMEs, which are 92% of the number of businesses, are getting pittance, nothing from commercial banks lending. And even if you look at the figures, you know that it's 500,000. When you go above 500,000 individual, then you start paying. But the bank is over 3 million before they start paying. So you can see that.
I think.
The fact of the matter is that we got to move the base. They have to lend more to the base of the economic pyramid, so that they can distribute their costs instead of 75% of their income coming from all these commissions.
For those of us who operate...
Finally on this, the CBN has actually been very patient. Because in 2011, remember, that's when they began to restrict third-party cash to 150,000. In 2017, they published the guideline and then started the pilot.
And then you know now, if you go to deposit anything above 500,000 naira cash, you pay. You pay a levy. If you withdraw from your own account, if you withdraw 500,000 naira, you also pay a levy. And then you go to the ATM, you cannot withdraw more than 10,000. Your ATM, they will charge you. Sometimes they will seize your card.
Yes, let me just quickly speak to that. That policy is intended to change people's behavior. You do not need to go to the bank, carry 500,000 naira when you can easily transfer same at zero cost.
How much are you charging me for the transfer? Because you're taking the money from all sources.
Remember in 2012, before we introduced this cashless Nigeria policy, that you used to hear the story, common story then. The Los robbers moving from Onitsha to Lagos was attacked by robbers. Los robbers moving from Kano to Lagos was attacked by... Today, people don't talk about that. There are positive side of it. What we are saying is that change people's behavior. You can achieve the same thing. For you to move from your house to the bank.
I think the point, gentlemen, is that, my colleague, the point is that bank customers recognize all these changes. But they are saying they shouldn't be fleeced by the banks who now believe that they have a captive market from whom you can mop up all these charges, say little pennies here and there. It will give you 24.3 billion from January to June. So by the time it gets from July to December, we're already in December, you will see what the balance will be. All right, let's take the tweets that have come in from our viewers. Ibrahim Tudu said we should stop bitching about the bush. Our own Central Bank of Nigeria knows all these layers of charges. Since they allow it, they are complicit. Or are they powerless with regard to their relationship with the banks? We need to stop the charges.
And Tolu says it appears these banks work clandestinely with CBN. It's only when Nigerians cry foul about these charges, then you see the central bank trying to isolate itself.
All right. You have this from Ayoluwa. It says there shouldn't be any charges since the money kept in the bank is used for business. Returns should also be made to the customer account.
I can't remember the last time I saw that in my account.
Where will you see that? Yes, okay.
Banks in Nigeria have numerous
That's law
ways.
Alpha C now.
Yes, Alpha C says banks in Nigeria have numerous ways of pilfering customers' money while making them believe that they are there to render effective services.
Mohammed Mustafa said, let government or whoever is in charge to change these bank charges because it is worrisome to customers. Charges on ATM card after paying for the card are many charges before you know it, almost half of your salary reduced completely. Government should do something about it.
And this one is from Mohammed Mustafa. It says, I don't blame those who refuse to take their money to the bank, and it's because of these unfortunate charges.
Inusa Adamu, I have since abandoned my bank account, mentions the bank there, due to multiple charges.
And this one is from Ojo Lighton. My request is about the notification charges. If the bank has an update on new products sent to the customers, they will charge us 4 naira for each alert.
And then, 4 naira. Every time they send you something, 4 naira. If they send, and if you have 1 million customers, you know what that means. And they have more.
They can say 3 times, the same alert, 3 times.
They will be sent, and then you'll be seeing deduction. You think that 4 naira is small money. Yes.
That.
If you do that 3 times, that's already 12 naira.
Yeah.
You know, you can buy bitter cola with 10 naira. All right. We have Ojo Lighton. If you withdraw from ATM, you will receive an alert and charge. If the transaction failed, they won't reverse the charges. Also, by the ATM renewal charges, imagine a bank always deduct from your account called pending debit without you borrowing any money. It got worse that even if you buy airtime worth 100 naira, they will deduct 50 naira. This is unfair.
Omogbola Obab says this topic couldn't have come at a better time. The Nigerian banking industry today has become some sort of nightmare. You hold your ATM card, they charge you for maintenance. You save your money, they charge you. You withdraw, they charge you. Anything you do, they charge you.
Are you overwhelmed?
I'm not overwhelmed.
Yeah,
the question of the next is actually that we need to do more in terms of consumer education. That is something that has become very, very clear from some of this. Let me quickly say something. Do you know, even Rhoda just mentioned something now, and do you know that the first section of the Guide to Bank Charges, released in 2017, deals with interest on deposit. And it clearly tells you that it is 30% of MPR. It should never be less than 30% of the MPR. Today, MPR is 13.5. So, if you receive less than 30% of that, at the end of the month,
what does that come to?
That should come to, well, my mathematics is wrong. That's about 3. About 4. About 4. You understand? That is, so if you keep your money in the bank, it's not right. You know, by some of the people who can read through Twitter that say that when you keep your money there, they take your money. No, you are supposed to earn some of these things. If at the end of the month, and again, sir, you see, what I will, very quickly now. What I will encourage consumers to do is this: take pain. Since we are very vociferous in our complaint about charges now, we need to take some steps. Customers are advised to, at the end of the month, when you receive your statement, which is supposed to be free anyway, it's only when you request. When you request, when you make a request, you are supposed to pay 20 naira per page. So
and they will
listen, sir. It is you request for
the
it.
last one
That is why we try to keep record of our monthly statement. Then for SMS, clearly here, it is where it is customer-induced transaction that the bank is supposed to charge you anything. So what I just want to advise customers to do, please.
Kofo and Sam and Patrick Unwayo and Professor Kenneth, it looks like a subject matter that we may have to return to at some point. But we'd like to appreciate you all for being with us. Part of what we haven't included in this conversation is to get a legal practitioner whose specialty is banking and negotiable instruments. Perhaps until, as the saying goes, sue the hell out of some of these banks, things might not change. Professor Kanife, thanks a lot for being with us. Kofo Salame Alada, Director, Consumer Protection Department of CBN, would like to appreciate you for being with us. Samuel Kojere, Director, Payment System Management Department, CBN, also a deep appreciation. And the CEO of Abuja Business School, Dr. Patrick Unwayo, thanks a lot for being around on Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll take on our second topic. This time it will be a softer issue, Zuma Film Festival.
Meet the dreamer. Meet the stylish. Meet the bold. Meet the inquisitive. Meet the warrior. Meet the master. Meet the realist. The challenge is coming. Unity Challenge. Power, development, and peace. Coming soon.
I don't comot my hand from oil bunkering. General, what you gonna yarn? What did the yarn serve? I don't understand though. Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants is there. Me, I not do again Sam. That's why change begins with me. General!
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So partner with us for very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
All right, let's say Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As we indicated, we have a second issue to discuss, and it's on the Zuma Film Festival. With us here in the studios, we'd like to welcome Dr. Chidea Madwekwe. He is the Managing Director, CEO, Nigeria Film Corporation. Dr. Madwekwe, a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, also here with us in the studios is Richard Boateng. Richard Boateng is the President, Film Directors Guild of Ghana. Boateng, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
In the studios. And last but not least, Adriano Viascol is an Italian filmmaker. Adriano, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you so much for having us.
Brother.
All right, let's begin with Dr. Chidi Amaduekwe. Tell us about the Zuma Film Festival. Since its inception, I know this is not the first one. What has been the impact?
Thank you very much. Zuma Film Festival started as a national film festival in 1992, and it transformed to Zuma Film Festival barely 20-something years ago. A tremendous impact has taken place because it has been an anticipatory platform that celebrates cinematic excellence, engages people who are in the industry, both within and outside Nigeria. And of course, we use it to create the emerging talent in a workshop whereby our young ones have the platform for growth.
What is on offer for this year's edition of the festival?
What is on offer is this is the 10th edition, so it is celebrating issues of content connectivity about the digital platform as an online for us to now showcase our content distribution in a manner that will mitigate issues of piracy that has been affecting the growth in the industry. Again, it is heartwarming to know that Google from the United States is partnering with Nigerian Film Corporation to make this possible. And like no other, we expect so much out of it because what is going to be derived following the Google presence. And of course, it has attracted international attention. We have great handshake with our brothers from Ghana who are working closely with Nigeria now to see to it that film festivals are domesticated more robustly all over Africa with the upcoming Nigeria-Ghana binational and biannual film festival. Of course, you've seen the film producer from Italy who is here with us, and that tells you what the international interest now is in Zuma, not to talk about the French and the Germans in their role to make sure that human capacity development is all embedded into National Film Institute.
Speak to us in details as to what the participation will be like this year.
Already we are having a tremendous outpouring of participants. Yesterday at Silverbird, at Jabi, the hall couldn't contain everybody. So there's a lot of excitement, unlike last year and the year before. You may recall that when I took office in 2017, Zuma Film Festival never had for another 5 years. So, but since 2017, we're making it back to back. Of course, with the support of NTA, who believed in us and made it a popular game changer.
Okay, Richard Boateng, why are you here for the film festival?
Yeah, it's a great thing. First of all, I want to thank the TV station, and I want to thank Dr. Chidia for inviting Ghana. We are proud to be here because we believe this is a time to unite the African cinema. Because Nigeria, first of all, Ghana started it way back 1923. When we were under our colonial masters, we have our fair film business in Gold Coast. 1948, we built Gold Coast Film Unit. In 1964, when Kwame Nkrumah took over, built Ghana Film Industry Corporation and built the first, largest film studios in Africa. Nigeria came on board 10 years later and swapped everything away. So we are proud that today, through Nigeria, Africa is on the global map because Nigeria is the second largest producer of movies in the world. Ghana cannot do anything than to hold on and push Nigeria there, because when Nigeria is there, Africa, we know anywhere you see Nigeria, Ghana is the next. If you see Ghana, Nigeria. So it's the best thing for us to now integrate and build African cinema. And the vision has, Ghana is ready to support it big time for us to have that international cinema. So we are proud to be here for that.
All right, Adriano, Viasco, again, I have the same question to you. Why are you here?
Well, I've been lucky to meet Dr. Chidia. Very unique and special person that I'm happy to be spending time with. He kindly invited us here and we are developing important projects. So the reason to be here is, well, I was lucky, first of all, and honored to be for 25 years friends with the Honorable Samia Nkrumah, who's going to be a guest here on Wednesday, because we have to announce a major Nigerian, Ghanaian, international co-production of a film. Hear well these words, Kwame Nkrumah. So this is just the beginning, and we're working on the script with Samia, and so I'm sure that Zuma Film Festival will bring good news to announce more. On at the same time, thanks to Richard Boateng, I've been helped to produce a documentary on chieftaincy, which is very important in Ghana. Something that it's of great value to show how traditions are important to the world, because people don't know how strong it is here, the respect to the traditions, the customs, and elderly people who are gold for society.
Adrenia, I want to ask you, what's your perception or your overview of the Nigerian film industry or African film industry?
Well, I think that there is great talent, and we don't see enough African cinema. I think that when I'm in Africa, I see African talent, African people who are eager to do more, and I think that this is the very moment to not just see what foreign films are, but what African films are, and to push them out to the country, not import, our culture, but value your culture, because you're full of stories, you're rich of beautiful places to see that the world doesn't know yet.
Okay, Adreno, thanks. Back to Richard Boateng, what Adreno just responded to takes us to a lingering subject matter in the film industry, which is the narrative. When are we going to see a shift from the usual stereotypes that are reinforced in our movies, and then get the African story told to the rest of the world?
Yeah, thank you. Yesterday in my goodwill speech to the opening, I did mention this. When I landed at Abuja, my first time coming to Abuja, I asked myself, is this Nigeria? Is it the Nigeria we know? Is it the Nigeria that the whole world sees in the Nollywood movies? And I asked the producer there, why do you always do in-law stories, showing bedroom, living room, compounded with 4x4 cars, and we don't see Nigeria? This is the beautiful Nigeria the world out there don't know. And they keep on thinking we are so poor, we are so needy, but we are rich culture, we are elegant. We have our own taste that they don't even have. We own our properties. We own our lands. Over there, everything is mortgaged, and 20, 50 years is still owned. But we are owners of our properties. These are the things our movie should move from the bedrooms to the scenery of our compound, scenery of our communities, scenery of our cities. Look at the beautiful highways we have here. In one movie in New York, the helicopter will be out there and establish it, and as if we don't have it in Africa. Look at Abuja. So this is the time I think we're going to dialogue and create a pool of screenwriters, train them, and give them African content, what we want African to be perceived of in the next 10 years. We have to project this through the motion picture, because to rule the world, it is the soft power today. It's not the gun. It's not the bullets and the bombs. It's soft power. Americans have used it for 50 years, and they are ruling the whole universe. We can use the same system and bring our culture back, bring our youth from being westernized to being Africans by projecting the best quality of our culture, our kingdoms, our monarchies, and our respect for elders, which is not like that out there. All this has been inculcated. What I realized that we don't have children movies in Africa. So our generation don't know the path to become an African adult. All they see as children's movie is white movies. So they become Americans, Europeans in their youth age, and when they grow up before, they have to become Africans. All this have to be considered by Nigeria, Ghana to start doing youth movies and train our youth the way we want them to become through our motion pictures. This is the time to shift the paradigm and get African content. So that content connectivity is not for Nigeria. It is for Africa, to create an African content.
Tomadwike, he just spoke about training, in terms of training Nigerian filmmakers. What do you have in the offering in terms of that?
Right now, we, by our mandate, we train, and we have the OS Film Institute in Nigeria, following that of Ghana, NAFTI. Lately, we have been supported heavily by foreign collaboration in order to up the skill that is required to bring about the best in cinematic experience. Lately, Agency for Foreign Development from France, visited NFI. They are coming with a lot of capacity. In addition with what the Germans are doing, January this year, we will be in France to sign the very first production agreement between Nigeria and France. And in that agreement is warehouse, like he said, children, film, literacy, which will mean they need to catch them young and impact on our people so that government can be able to stimulate the industry in order to do the needy, which my colleague from Ghana has already spoken about.
Well, there are two issues that I could pick from Richard Boateng's response to one of our questions. One, he talks about the quality of screenwriters and the need to upgrade their skills and give them a new philosophy. What is it that we have now with regard to the philosophical orientation of our screenwriters, and how much of an uphill task might it be for this reorientation? Is it something you're going to do from your institute, or it's something that you have to get into their background, say those who teach theater arts, those who teach writing, and so on and so forth, before we get into the youth movies?
Yeah, it's for us to understand the emergence of Nigerian movies. Like, it was purely independent, self-resilience brought it to where it was, and it was focused on commercialization. Let us produce movie and see what we can make out of it. But we have moved away from that. We are now doing cinema movies and box office movies, and people are seeing that quality movie can bring traction to our international exposure, and of course bigger revenue can come there. So that is where this co-production agreement between Nigeria and other film industries, film nations, are important. And that is what government is doing through Nigerian Film Corporation, to see how many of these co-production agreements can be established so that we can up the fanfare.
We do festivals like this, like the Zuma Festival. What comes to mind of a lot of people is, what impact does this have on our local movie producers? When you have people coming from Ghana, what advantages are there, for our local film producers in this, period?
Even listening from our man from Ghana, you can see there are a lot to take from his presence here. He had just told us that as he arrived in Nigeria, he was surprised. Why is it that we're not doing more films that had to do with landscape? I refer you to Sheikh Omar, which was shot in 1975 by the pioneer MD of Nigerian Film Corporation, specifically for Festac. When the German digitized it, you will see that the film was shot outside for a period of almost 2 years between Nigeria and Niger Republic. And the landscape, the richness of the landscape there still make that film something that is an iconoclast, which people are still referring to. So from what he has said and what we are trying to do is that we create the enabling environment that Nigerians will find it possible to to enjoy the location that all over Nigeria, all over Africa, to move from the one-bedroom concept of filmmaking to landscape.
All right, Adriano, let's return to you. What investment opportunities do you find in the Nigerian, if not African, movie market? If you, of course, participate in a festival of this nature, there are obvious gaps.
I see no limit. I see incredible potential, because saying virgin is not right. I see mature people open to collaboration with no barriers. So I'm very excited, honestly. I have not enough words. I mean, I'm longing to spend more and more time. This is the 5th time I come to Ghana, first time I come to Nigeria. One of my best friends and lawyers is a Nigerian distinguished young man called Gabriel Mbanefo, with a heritage, with a grandfather who was a lord in England, and his father is a distinguished lawyer here in Nigeria and England, also a very good piano player. And I naturally established good collaborations with people in Africa. So I think that the West is lost. We have no stories. We're repeating ourselves. We do remakes. Here you have every single person that has a particular story to tell. And so that's why I think that this is the moment for Africa. This is the moment to be here.
All right, Boteng, Richard, let's get your closing thoughts. What do you hope to take away from this Zoom Film Festival?
Yeah, what is important that we understand how to take over our continent. Being here, all I want our brothers in Nigeria to understand, like our first president, or the first president of Africa said, the independence of Ghana is not complete until it is totally connected to the liberation of all African nations. Today, Nigeria is the second largest filmmakers in the world. Nigeria shouldn't see it like it's Nigerians' business. Nigeria should see that for Nigeria to remain there, it will take Nigerian to groom all African filmmakers together to have one African content. Then we can maintain and even overcome either the Indians or the Americans. What do we need? We need cinema industry. We have the film industry, but we don't have cinema industry. We are having 1.2 billion population with about not even more than 100 cinemas in the whole African continent. Not more than 100 cinemas. China has 1.3 billion with 63,000 cinemas. Now, America has only 300 million population with 43,000 cinemas. In average, when you release one movie, the number of people who patronize the movie in the box office are extremely high in America than elsewhere in the world. And that is why they are economically empowered over all of us. The business of cinema, Africans have not discovered. We have seen film, but we have not seen cinema. Cinema is the outfit, the revenue of the films that we produce. And this is the
Richard, thank you very much. I'd like Dr. Chidi Amadweke to quickly tell us what this year's Zuma film. I know the opening was yesterday, so what are we yet to see, and how long is it? How can people actually come out to get to know more about it and be part of it?
Well, thank God for NTA. So the publicity is ongoing and people are knowing about that, and the social media platforms are there to let people of a national data tariff policy, so that when you have a national data policy dedicated for content distribution, contribution, it will explode the potential therein in creativity.
All right. Dr. Chidi Amadwekwe, CEO, Nigeria Film Corporation, I would like to thank you for being part of our discussion this morning. Adriano Viascol, a Chilean filmmaker, thanks a lot for being around.
Thank you.
And last but not the least, Richard Boateng, who is President Film Directors Guild of Ghana, would like to thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
Okay, so that does it for us on the Monday edition of Good Morning Nigeria. The program is back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Rhoda Anodam. Thank you for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your day.